And welcome back. Joining us for our first conversation is a conversation with Dr. Jorge Lopez to talk to us about how to keep our skin healthy during the Easter. Good morning, doctor. Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So tell us, what is the number one misconception about skin when it comes to the sun?
Okay, I think probably the most common one is that dark skin does not need to use any protection. No? I would think that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I ask you that because I think that's a common misconception that a lot of people have. The darker your skin is, you don't need the sunscreen, but it's indeed we need at least 30, 50 SPF. And we can get that in a lot of different ways, right?
Yeah, here's the thing. Having darker skin, actually you get more protection, but it doesn't mean that you're immune to the damaging effects of UV radiation. Because on the long run, the more sun you get, the earlier your skin will age because its DNA will get damaged, and then the more likely it is for you to get skin cancer. So it makes all of the sense in the world to get protected.
So let's talk about sun exposure, because sunburns are just expected around this time of year. People will be in the seas, they'll be in the river, they'll be somewhere outdoor, and we all enjoy soaking in some sun. But for a very long time, and I think we all have in the back of our mind that it can damage our skin and affect our health. How exactly does the sun affect us?
Okay, like I was telling you, when you get too much sunlight, then the DNA of the skin gets damaged. And we have mechanisms in place for the skin to repair itself. But if you get too much sun or too frequently, then those mechanisms won't be enough.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, if you put together genetics, for example, having a fair skin type, then you have the perfect recipe for 15, 20 years later having skin cancer, no?
Yeah.
Now, there's something noteworthy. Recently, we have seen, or they have seen, that, for example, in the US, the population with a high incidence of skin cancer are females between 20 and 27 years of age.
Because they tan a lot.
And it's a tendency, or is an age group that we are not used to see as much skin cancer, no?
Yeah.
So this speaks about the trend of this is a little bit a complicated problem, because why do we think about going out in the sun and laying in the sun? Because the beauty ideal has to do with it. So there's a motivation actually to get sun tanned, right? And with that, then you're getting sun damage to an extent. No?
Is there anything that you can do that would be considered enough when it comes to taking care of your skin in the sun?
Okay, that's a very good question. First of all, even if, like, I would say 99.9% of my patients come to my office and I ask about sunscreen, yes, I do use sunscreen. And I go, how many times you reapply? No, just in the morning.
Just the one, yeah.
Right? So that doesn't even cut it. If you're using sunscreen, I mean, especially where we live, we have sun 367 days a year, right? So you have to reapply sunscreen in order for it to be effective. And on top of that, we know that people do not apply enough sunscreen. So even if you're using it twice a day, chances are that still you're not getting enough sunscreen. So that's why we usually try to tell people, okay, sunscreen is great, but it's not enough. Shades, hat, long sleeves, long pants, and avoiding being out like at the hours that we know UVB radiation is highest. That would be 10 to 3 o'clock, for example, right? As a rule of thumb, what I like telling, for example, kids is, once you're out and you notice that your shade is shorter than you, that means you shouldn't be out.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's when the sun's at its peak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and speaking about kids, I would like to say something. Babies, the book says less than 6 months, but I like to say 1 year and less, should not be exposed to sunlight, period.
Yeah.
Their skin is not really prepared for that. And you know, it breaks my heart sometimes. I'm driving and you see people with their babies right there, like, there's no really, we don't realize baby skin is not to be exposed to sunlight like that. So even if you were to use sunscreen, first of all, sunscreen is not recommended in babies less than 6 months old, right? After that you could, but you have to be careful the type of product, no? Because it could irritate their skin.
So let's talk SPF, because that's one of the greatest selling pitches of, or the marketing, I should say, of the companies that produce sunscreen. And I once read that really after a certain number, it really makes no sense. So what sunscreen should we be purchasing and using?
Okay. Yes, definitely there comes a point in which SPF, it's a marketing tool.
Yeah.
Right? To give you an idea, SPF 30 versus SPF 50. The 50 would give you about 1.3% more protection than the SPF 30. And then you would think 30 to 50, it's like a bigger number, right? And I have seen sunscreens with SPF 100.
Yeah.
So bottom line, SPF 100 does not exist. And actually there was a couple of years ago, I think, the FDA was about to pass a law in which sunscreen makers would not use any number higher than 50 plus.
Okay.
Because when you see 100, the idea that you get is, okay, this is my pass. I could do whatever I want in the sun, which is really not true.
So once you have SPF 30, that's
once you
sufficient?
have SPF 30, then that's ideal. SPF 30 or higher, depending on your skin type, right?
Okay.
But like I said, we know that we do not apply enough.
Yeah, I want to get into that now. So let's talk about how it should be applied.
Okay.
First of all, when
Shot glass, right?
a shot glass.
That is the ideal amount that would go on exposed skin.
Okay.
So
that's a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a lot more than what we apply, no?
Yeah.
So and then you have to reapply because sunscreen doesn't really last for that long, no?
And
especially taking into account activities. If you're sweating, if you're going into the water, all of that, no?
So a shot glass of sunscreen applied to the body. When?
Depending on the ingredients of the sunscreen, some of them you would have to apply 30 minutes before you come out. Some others you apply it and they're basically ready to protect your skin, no?
So your safest bet is to apply it before you go in the sun.
Yes, that is correct. And then in terms of what you have to look for, I would say, make sure that the SPF is 30 or higher. We like the ingredients that say zinc oxide and titanium dioxide because those have the least chances of irritating your skin.
Okay.
So I would normally recommend this, especially for kids. So we know there won't be any irritation. And then the sunscreen is not to sting or to burn your skin when you apply it.
Okay.
Right?
I had a question for women who wear makeup, because a lot of makeup companies, they include SPF in their products so that as a part of their marketing play. So if we wear makeup, is that enough if it says it has 30 SPF in it?
Yes, theoretically, yes.
Okay.
But then you need to
You still need to put on
reapply,
more.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it safer to put it on under your makeup?
It should go under the makeup.
Okay. So we reapply how many times for the day? I mean, how long will the sunscreen last on your body?
Once you're going to be exposed to UV radiation, and by exposed, I'm not saying laying out under direct sunlight. You could be in the shade under a tree or a palapa, whatever, but you're still outdoors.
Yeah.
Then you are to reapply every 2 hours.
Now I want to ask, for a lot of people who don't wear sunscreen, and even after this conversation, after hearing from a medical professional that you should, they're still not going to put sunscreen on. What are some of the other things that people can do to protect their skin?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Clothing. in general,
Wear
right?
clothes.
Yeah.
Well, this is the season where people wear the least.
Right.
Yeah, clothing plays an important role as well, because it could protect you. It could enhance the protection against UV damage, no? So here, for example, a tip we like to tell to our patients is, whenever you have clothing made out of cotton or any blend of cotton, before you wear it, like if you buy it new, or when you buy it, sorry, have it washed 2 or 3 consecutive times before wearing it. Because as you know, fabrics tend to shrink a little bit. So the tightness of the woven, when you do the washing 2 or 3 times consecutively, it gets a little bit tighter. So that means there will be less UV radiation going through.
That's interesting, because most people get annoyed when their clothes shrink after you wash it, but now there's a reason for you to have it shrink and that'd be fine.
And then some synthetic fabrics like Lycra, for example, do give a higher protection. No? Denim, the material jeans are made of, we know it's very, very good in blocking UV rays.
UV rays.
Yeah.
Now, I'm so glad that we talked about clothing, because we're finally at the point where I can see kids especially are swimming with their swim shirts on, the long sleeve ones. Are there any parts of your body that are more vulnerable to getting burnt and getting damaged skin?
That's a good question. Remember, sun damage is cumulative.
Okay.
So that means that the areas that would be more in danger are the ones that are constantly getting the radiation. Hence why a lot of skin cancers happen on exposed areas, right? So definitely something important. Most of the time we forget our ears when it comes to applying sunscreen, and that's something important as well.
So the ears, the shoulders. Another issue that we know, and we used to hear it when we go to the Keys, is why do you get so burned on the top part of your body? And it's like reflection from the water itself. What is the case with that? Is it true?
Definitely, it's about 25%. The increase in radiation is about 25% once you're in the water or snow. The UV reflects on the water to 25% more.
Yeah.
And what about some natural remedies? If you don't want to use the chemicals of sunscreen from Banana Boat or whoever, what are some natural things that you can use to protect your skin?
Okay, in that case, there is actually a product that has hard data behind it that comes from a fern. And actually they came across this because the Indians in South America, they use it to drink like a tea, I believe. And they noticed that they had very low incidence of skin cancer. So they went in the lab and they got this fern out. So they sell it as capsules. And I would recommend this product, for example, for patients that already have had skin cancers, because this specific fern helps the repair process of your skin. Now, if you're talking about any other home remedy, there's really no one that I could recommend.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a yogurt you can put on your skin that will mimic sunscreen.
I mean, if you go on the internet, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
The amount of things people say, but things that actually we tend to believe it works based on studies.
Yeah.
It's basically
you want the
sunscreen.
scientific proof, because anybody can say, yeah, like I said, yogurt would work, but you need to have the proof that it would work. So we spoke about staying out of the sun, using SPF 30 or higher, considering wearing extra clothing to cover up if you're going to be out, under your makeup as well. One of the things I think is very common is that people work in offices or they work indoors, but they feel that they don't have exposure to the sun because, well, I'm covered.
Yeah.
Is that the case? So if I go to work every day, I jump from my house into my car, into a enclosed building, and I go back in my car into my house, I don't have that much sun exposure, right?
Yeah, that is right. When you are in an office, taking into account that you have windows, UVB will be blocked. It doesn't go through the glass, even if you're driving.
Okay.
UVB doesn't go through it. But UVA does go through it.
Okay.
So UVA, before, we used to blame aging specifically on UVA and skin cancer on UVB. Now we know that both do both things, no? So even if you're indoors, if you have windows around you, then you're being exposed.
So once you're seeing natural light, you're being exposed to sunlight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's talk about those who won't listen to this message. And we know, guys, girls, children, you know, you end up with a very bad sunburn. And I mean, there are varying degrees of sunburn as well. You could have just a tan that will peel and it gets dry, or you could get to the point of blisters. How bad is that type of damage to your skin, and what are some of the things you must do to help your skin heal?
Okay, to give you an idea, once you get a sunburn, you're actually doubling the chances of skin cancer. Right? So
Every time you get a sunburn.
it's really not a good idea. It's a really bad idea.
Yeah.
Right? So what to do when you have it? You have to slather moisturizer. I know aloe vera is a very common one. I get it every day from my patients. And it could help, but the problem I have with aloe vera is that there might be, or there are people with sensitive skin in which that specific plant, as natural as it is, will burn their skin. So you will be with two problems instead of one.
Okay.
So because of that risk, what we usually recommend is just a moisturizer.
Yeah.
And
So lotion.
yeah.
Non-fragrant.
Definitely unscented, right? What I tell my patients also is keep your moisturizer in the fridge. So when you apply it, it's cool, it suits you, right? And you have to slather many times for the day.
And there are different degrees of burn, similar to like when you get burnt by the fire, right?
Yeah.
So when you have gotten to the point where you have a blister on your skin from sunburn, that's severe.
It's when you have a blister, it could get tricky. So it's best you go to your dermatologist. No, definitely.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's difficult to gauge how long you're gonna be in the sun, and that could expose you to being burnt. How should we say to ourselves, okay, I'm gonna only be in the sun for an hour or 2 hours? Is there a limit that we should put on ourselves?
It depends on the time of the day, right? Like I said, you don't want to be out there from say 10 to 3 p.m., right?
And that's the best time. When you're on holiday.
We're looking for loopholes for Easter. But fundamentally, you know, and I think because the effects of sun damage are perhaps not immediate, as in the life-threatening aspect.
Yeah, no, they're not immediate.
People dismiss the threats.
Yeah.
But we do see cases of skin cancer in Belize.
Yes, there is plenty.
Yeah.
There is plenty.
And they're mostly caused by sun exposure?
The most common type of skin cancer is basal cell carcinoma, and that one is definitely linked to UV radiation. Squamous cell carcinoma is also very common, and it's also strongly linked to UV radiation. Melanoma, which is the deadliest form of skin cancer, to an extent it is. There is some controversy about how much the sun has to do with it, but in a lot of cases with melanoma, it's involved.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah.
Are sunspots a sign of cancer? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, those, if we're talking about the same thing, what people call
The dark spots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those have to do, first of all, with genetics and the type of your skin, and secondly, with damage of your skin or getting sunlight, but those are not related to skin cancer.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about diet and what we consume. Simply because we speak of what you put on top of your skin, but there are things that you need as well. hydration is one.
Okay, when it comes to your skin and you want to have healthy skin, first of all, I would say 2 pillars. Avoid irritating your skin and moisturize it. Those are the 2. Now, keeping hydrated, that's very good for functioning of every single cell of your body, but it really does little to your skin.
Really?
What you want is to use a moisturizer right on your skin. That's the most effective measure, I would say. And as we said, unscented is ideal.
So you don't want the perfumey lotions?
No bath and body.
No Bath and Body or Victoria's Secret?
Nobody's secrets, no.
Why is that?
The reason is perfume means chemicals. And then if you have sensitive skin, those chemicals would go into your skin and start irritating your skin. So on the long run, they could cause you irritation. Nothing severe, right? But it could damage. No?
Now, if my skin is on the path towards getting really, really bad, because I'm a fisherman or I work outside as a construction worker, how do I take steps, or what steps can I take to make sure that I don't get to a really bad place like melanoma?
Okay, that's an excellent question. First of all, sun damage is cumulative. Yes, we already said that. But it could also be reverted. And that's the great thing about it. Think about it like a drop that is going to fill a bucket, right? So even if you're really, really close to overfilling that bucket, if you stop right there, then the bucket won't be filled. And if the bucket won't be filled, then probably you won't get skin cancer, even if you're close. And then there are treatments we do, medications we prescribe that could, to some extent, revert that sun damage. So in other words, it's never too late to start using sunscreen, right? Sunscreen, hat, long sleeves, all of that.
Sunshades.
Sunshades, yes.
So let's talk about something else from your perspective, that when you look at our habits, especially this time of year, you'd really like to advise people about the potential hazards that may exist.
Yeah, I think we kind of have mentioned all, no? My most concern, like I said, is with children because their skin is less prepared for sun. So please take into account that children should not, especially the babies, should not under any circumstance be exposed to sunlight. And I mean, early in the morning, say 6 to 6:30, that's fine for a little baby, right? But after that, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, for young children and the elderly, it's beyond skincare. They also don't process the heat as well as people of another age.
Yes, definitely.
So they can overheat.
That's another thing. And maybe one word more about clothing. They sell special clothing, that has a ultraviolet protection factor. There are some interesting studies that have shown that when you try them in water, back to back, the expensive ones and a regular shirt, there's really not much advantage, right? So bottom line is, if you're wearing long sleeves, it's better than wearing nothing, right?
Yeah.
And it could be as helpful as wearing the expensive one. So don't let that stop you.
And I love that. You spoke about getting cotton clothing, like a long sleeve cotton t-shirt, wash it a couple times and it's a bit more tighter, so it blocks more sun. Great.
I just have one more question. So when we're in the sun and if you're on the beach or wherever, how often should we reapply? Every hour?
Every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours.
Yeah, that's the norm. Every 2 hours.
The shot glass every 2 hours.
Ideally, but I mean, nobody does that. Now, with the sunscreens, they're supposed to tell you 40 minutes or 80 minutes, and that's the amount of time that they would protect you whenever you're in contact with water. So you have to look at that also. If you have a 40-minute one, then 40 minutes after you have to reapply if you're in the water.
All right. right. So I think you gave us so much good advice about how to protect our skin and why to protect our skin as well. Thank you very much. And
Thank
you pointed out earlier that if somebody does get a bad sunburn, it's probably best to check in with their doctor.
It's definitely better.
Yeah.
It's definitely better.
All right.
You'll save yourself a lot of pain and discomfort. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, our special Easter show continues. So stay tuned.